save. Never leave me.
Atamaria, welcome back to breakfast. To the traffic now. We'll start on the northern and Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland this morning. Heading into the city, it's heavy between Greville and Onewa. On the northwestern motorway, it's slow at Royal Road and busy from Rosebank through to the Southern Link. On the southern, it's heavy between Drury and Takanini, and again between Manukau and Green Lane. If you're heading to the airport this morning, it would be a good idea, if you're in Auckland, to allow for a little bit of extra time. The traffic is backed up on George Bolt Memorial Drive, but everything's okay this morning in Westport.
The Caltex Traffic Report, helping you enjoy the journey.
News headlines. Manchester Police have named the suicide bomber in yesterday's attack on a pop concert as 22-year-old Salman Abedi. As the investigation into the attack continues, a vigil has been held for the 22 victims. Plus, Sir Roger Moore, best known for playing James Bond, has died at the age of 89. I'll be back with the full news bulletin at 7:30. See you then.
Kia ora, Daniel. 7:22 on breakfast. We talk a lot about the problems of society, but rarely do we hear of solutions which could actually work efficiently. Well, today politicians will hear how teaming up more closely with corporations and charities could solve our social ills. Dr. Lisa Bonadonna works for pharmaceutical giant GSK and will be the one delivering the wisdom to our MPs. Kia ora, good morning.
Thank you very much.
There will be people listening right now who say corporations looking to solve social issues, and they'll be feeling pretty sceptical about that.
And I can understand that, but I think if you really want a sustainable solution that will last, what you need to do is to bring all three sectors together: government, private sector and the third sector, so the charities, the NGOs. If you don't, you've got a piece of the stool that's missing and you won't get traction on the ground.
Why is that?
Because each party is bringing a different skill set to play. For example, we're a research-based healthcare company, so we do really good research. But in low-resource healthcare settings, we don't always really understand the problems. So by coming together with Save the Children, for example, we've turned the active ingredient in our mouthwash into a gel that can help prevent umbilical cord sepsis.
Right, so this is what you will be speaking about GSK's experience in teaming up with charities. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that and what you'll be informing the MPs today?
Yes, so we'll be talking about examples like this very particular development which had input from Save the Children. They helped us settle on a gel formulation and a single sachet formulation, whereas I think the simplest solution might have been a liquid, but it doesn't really work as well if you're talking about difficult settings.
But what does GSK get out of that?
So GSK gets quite a lot out of it, actually, because our partnership is quite broad. The research I've talked about is just one component, but we also have our employees engaged through volunteering, and it's skills-based volunteering. So everything from supply chain management, everything from support for emergency response and healthcare worker training, which is again something you would expect a pharmaceutical organisation to be pretty good at. And through having our employees engaged, they want to, first of all, come and work for GSK, and they want to stay.
So what opportunities do you see in New Zealand for the government to team up with corporations and charities and have a three-pronged approach?
So I think if you reflect on where New Zealand sits in the Asia-Pacific region, there's a couple of really strong areas for support and input. One I've already touched on, which is emergency response. I think New Zealand is fantastic in an emergency, and particularly health crises. You guys know how to respond. So I think there's a lot of learning that you can share there. And then I think if you take it a step further and think of some of the health challenges that affect the region, so for example, things like malaria, we're working very, very strongly with a range of governments through the Asia-Pacific Leaders for Malaria Alliance, including New Zealand, where a lot of expertise is offered, both in terms of development, but also in support for programming. So we're developing a medicine in the malaria space as well, but we can't do more than the development. We actually need to make sure it actually gets to the people who need it, and we can only do that if we have government support locally and internationally.
thank you for your time this morning. That
Been
is
a pleasure.
Dr. Lisa Bonadonna.
It's 26 minutes past 7, and if you just joined us, some sad news overnight with the passing of former James Bond actor Sir Roger Moore. He was 89 and was undoubtedly one of the world's best Bonds. So we're asking you this morning, was he your favourite 007? We've had lots of feedback on that, and thank you, we will get into that soon. Then, just before 8, do you fancy yourself as a pretty good person at picking names for pets? Well, here's your chance. This little treasure, there he is, under Mum. He needs a name, and if you think you've got a cracker, we'll tell you how you can get involved just before 8.